At 5:34 in the morning, a surveillance camera on a quiet Ohio road captures a black Toyota Camry making a slow, controlled right turn. 1 minute later, a second camera catches the same car, now at the end of the road, crossing 100 miles per hour. It slams into a brick building. The car splits in two. 2 of the 3 people inside never made it home. 20-year-old Dominic Russo and 19-year-old Davion Flanagan were pronounced dead at the scene. The driver survived. Her name was Mackenzie Shirilla. She was 17 years old. What followed was a trial that didn't play out in front of a jury. Shirilla's legal team made a choice, one that would define the entire case. They waived her right to a jury. They put her fate in the hands of a single judge. The question is, why? And more importantly, why did it fail? To understand the trial, you have to understand what came before it. Mackenzie Shirilla and Dominic Russo started dating when she was 14 and he was 16. By all outside appearances, they were inseparable. They lived together at his parents' home. She was active on TikTok, an influencer with a growing following, posting fashion videos and lifestyle content. They talked about marriage. But behind the cameras, the relationship was unraveling. There were frequent conflicts, multiple breakups and reunions. Dominic's family would later describe Mackenzie as controlling, at times physically abusive. Police had been called to the Shirilla home years earlier, a suicide threat by a 15-year-old girl. Her parents told police they didn't believe it was real. Russo's brother told investigators he had witnessed Dominic calling Mackenzie's parents to come pick her up, because she refused to leave his house. Then came the moment that would later haunt the courtroom. 2 weeks before the crash, Dominic called his mother Christine, desperate. He was in the passenger seat of Mackenzie's car and she was driving erratically, screaming. A family friend who came to pick him up heard her voice over the phone. Those words would echo through every phase of the trial to come. July 30th, 2022. The night of the crash. Mackenzie, Dominic, and their friend Davion Flanagan, a 19-year-old former football star who'd recently graduated, spent the evening at a graduation party. It was, by every account, uneventful. They arrived around 10:15, stayed less than half an hour, left with a bottle of tequila and a weed pen. Then they went to a friend's house. What happened there matters, because later, in court, the defense would need an explanation for the crash, and every witness who was there that night gave the same answer. It was, as one friend put it, just a normal sleepover. They watched YouTube videos. Someone brought a coloring book. Music played. Some people smoked marijuana, though friends said Mackenzie didn't participate. She'd been coughing up black mucus recently and was on a break. Around 3 a.m., Mackenzie fell asleep on the couch. Dominic stroked her hair. No tension, not one argument, not one bad vibe, a friend later told investigators. At 5 a.m., they decided to leave. Davion had planned to get a ride from another friend, but changed his mind at the last minute. He hugged that friend and said something unusual. Davion got into the back seat of Mackenzie's car. 6 minutes later, he was dead. Let me show you what the evidence reveals, because this is where the bench trial strategy starts to matter. At 5:34 a.m., the surveillance camera captures Mackenzie's Camry turning slowly onto Progress Drive. Controlled, deliberate, a normal turn. 1 minute later, the same car is at the end of the road, crossing 100 miles per hour. Now here's the detail the defense could never explain away. Progress Drive isn't a straight shot. Near the end, there's a slight right-left curve, a dogleg. To navigate it at nearly 100 miles per hour requires conscious steering. This is not a car drifting. This is not a medical blackout behind the wheel. Someone was at the controls, actively piloting that vehicle through an intersection at lethal speed. Then, the Plidco building. Brick wall, impact. The car's black box tells the rest of the story. The accelerator was pressed at 100%. The brakes? never touched, not once. First responders arrived 45 minutes later. Flanagan and Russo were pronounced dead at the scene. Shirilla was airlifted to a hospital with severe injuries, multiple fractures, surgeries. When she woke up, she was told what happened. She was inconsolable, witnesses said. But then, she said something else, something that shaped the entire investigation that followed. She said she couldn't remember any of it. But as they dug deeper, the story began to fracture. First, the car. A forensic auto examiner found the vehicle was in perfect working condition. The brakes worked, the accelerator worked, there was no mechanical failure. Second, toxicology. Shirilla's system showed only THC, no alcohol, no psilocybin, though mushrooms and a digital scale were found in the car. She wasn't impaired in a way that would explain losing control. Third, and most damning, the GPS data. Investigators tracked Mackenzie's devices and discovered she had visited the area near the crash site 3 days before. The prosecution called it a practice run. She had driven this road before. She knew exactly where it ended. And then there was her behavior after the crash. While the families of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan were still grieving, Shirilla posted TikToks from her hospital bed. On Halloween, just months after the crash, she and her friends posed in makeup that made them look like corpses. Flanagan's sisters saw those posts. She called the police and demanded they look closer. 4 months after the crash, police had enough. Shirilla was arrested and charged with 17 crimes, including 2 counts of aggravated murder. And this brings us to the central question of this case. When Mackenzie Shirilla's legal team prepared for trial, they made a strategic decision. They waived her right to a jury. Instead, they chose a bench trial, where a single judge, not 12 jurors, would decide guilt or innocence. Why would they do that? Legal experts who've analyzed the case point to a few theories. First, notoriety. This case had already attracted national attention. The details were gruesome. Potential jurors would have seen the headlines, the TikTok clips, the accusations. Shirilla's lawyers may have feared that a jury, composed of ordinary citizens, would be emotionally reactive. A judge, they hoped, would stay focused on the law and the evidence. Second, the POTS defense. Shirilla's legal team argued she suffered from a blood circulation condition that could cause sudden blackouts. The theory was that she lost consciousness behind the wheel. No intent, no crime. This is a technical medical argument. It might play better to a legally trained judge than to a jury swayed by the horror of 2 dead teenagers. And third, Shirilla herself. She never testified. She didn't take the stand. In a jury trial, a defendant's silence can sometimes raise suspicion. But in a bench trial, judges are trained not to draw inferences from a defendant's choice not to testify. The defense may have believed the judge would follow that rule more strictly than jurors would. The judge assigned to the case was Nancy Margaret Russo. No relation to Dominic Russo, but a name that carried an eerie weight in that courtroom. The strategy was set. The bench trial would begin. It was a gamble, and it would prove to be a catastrophic one. Here's where the bench trial strategy collapsed. The defense hoped a judge would be more objective. What they got was a judge who saw the evidence with utter clarity and was willing to say so in devastating terms. The POTS defense fell apart under scrutiny. To navigate that dogleg intersection at 100 miles per hour, steering through a right, then a left, then straight into a wall, requires active consciousness. A person who blacks out doesn't steer through curves. The black box data was irrefutable. Accelerator at 100%. No braking. The practice run. GPS evidence showing she had been there 3 days before suggested preparation, not accident. And Shirilla never took the stand. In a bench trial, that was supposed to be safe. But it also meant the judge never heard her voice, never saw her defend herself. The only story the judge heard was the prosecution's. On August 14, 2023, Judge Nancy Margaret Russo delivered her verdict. She called Shirilla's actions controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. She called her hell on wheels, guilty on all 12 charges, 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, plus drug possession and possessing criminal tools. 1 week later, the sentencing hearing. Davion Flanagan's sister, Davine, stood before the judge and asked for the longest possible sentence. Dominic Russo's mother, Christine, told Shirilla she should be thankful she's still alive, because her son isn't. Then, Shirilla spoke. Tearful, apologetic. She read a statement saying she hoped the families could one day accept that she would never have done this intentionally. The judge gave her 2 concurrent life sentences, eligible for parole after 15 years. Her driver's license was permanently revoked. Shirilla's legal team filed an appeal in September 2023. Denied. A second appeal in April 2025. Denied again. Filed too late. In March 2026, the 8th District Court of Appeals upheld all decisions. She is now incarcerated at the Ohio Reformatory for Women, eligible for parole in October 2037, when she will be 33 years old. In May 2026, Netflix released The Crash, a documentary about the case featuring the first interview with Shirilla from prison. She maintained her position. No memory of the crash. Not innocent, but not a murderer. The bench trial strategy was built on a simple calculation, that a judge would separate law from emotion better than a jury could. In a sense, that's exactly what happened. Judge Russo separated them, and then she convicted Shirilla anyway. Because the evidence didn't need emotion to be overwhelming, the black box data didn't need a jury's sympathy to be true. The steering pattern through that dogleg didn't need 12 citizens to prove consciousness. The GPS data showing a practice run didn't require moral outrage. It required a trained legal mind willing to connect the dots. And that's the thing about bench trials. You only get one person to convince. If you fail completely. 2 families are still living this. One buried their son. One lost theirs to a prison cell. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but I want to know. Did the bench trial strategy doom Mackenzie Shirilla from the start? Or was the evidence simply too strong for any defense to overcome? Drop your thoughts below, and be respectful. Real people are still carrying this.